So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services are refined in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end, then period of Yirmiyahu the prophet. We find a layer of understanding of the 61st chapter, where then Yirmiyahu the prophet of Israel mentioned regarding then the spring feast, many years yet ahead, and then obviously he mentioned the autumn feast, much further ahead of his time. And then not only the spring feast wasn't completed yet, it was roughly more than 500 years prior, and Yirmiyahu the prophet knew would have a time of restoration of the cities that didn't even started yet. So then Yirmiyahu then was sawn in half because of the ignorance of the people of his time. And then today we are precisely studying his prophecies and understanding the importance of being acquainted with the holy original manuscripts. So then, as the world is transitioning itself from the 1,000 years of deceit and the midman always encroaching and deceiving and lying and cheating, there was then a report some time ago regarding then the Bitcoin being shut down by the government, and it shows the absolutely unprecedented ignorance of this government of not understanding the time of the end trade. How can we determine this factor? Well, China is very smart. They don't have only the paper money as we think of, they have both of them. So let's say you understand the yuan, or then the Chinese monetary system, and then you understand the Bitcoin system. So try to understand the Bitcoin mixed with China's economy under the same name. So our government is so naive and so ignorant. They don't understand that there is the yuan of China already mixed with the virtual system as they try to combat the Bitcoin. It is incredibly questionable then the actions of this government. Understandably, we have then an economy of 15 T's, and we have a compound debt of 60. And the government has no idea what the Chinese then is preparing. Incredibly shows the ignorance of this government. Only the fact of a shutdown of the Bitcoin because of the lack of control shows the very evidence of the ignorant or the ignorancy of this government. They don't have any clue of what the Chinese is preparing in the very near future, where then not only the virtual monetary system is available, but it is camouflaged in the existing banking system of China. So then, since they are extremely smart and our government absolutely living in cave, if you would compare, we find then, unfortunately, the Bitcoin then shut down for a time. But then the Chinese, they already have this system already loaded. They don't understand it yet because it's the same name. It's under the same yuan, or Chinese yuan, where then you would understand having a nation with a regular paper money system and banking and policies and government controls and laws. At the same time, a virtual system. So then, the action of the government shows its ignorance. Incredibly. So then, obviously, we find then the Chinese is simply waiting for the proper time of making the downloading available. Some say, oh, what is the value then of the Bitcoin? In the new Chinese system, it's the production line. So then when you have a value of a monetary system virtual, and then you combine with production line, then you have a value. So then this government rather than working in a USDV, making our own virtual system, they try to control somebody else's. We have a huge debt, more than double, and at the moment, quite honestly, is quadruple. So we are 4 times behind in our economy, number-wise. Yet we are trying to go around the world and making deals, and so then obviously the military of China and the Soviet Union are combining. Not only we have no aim, our government is ignorant, and they have displayed their government stupidity and lack of knowledge by the shutdown of the Bitcoin. The very action of doing so shows their ignorance. They don't understand there is a system yet already camouflaged with the Chinese economy. So then, rather than understanding Bitcoin and incorporating Bitcoin in our own system as a similitude, then combining freighting and taxation, then the government, then by their ignorance, they shut down a system that is going to rule in a very near future. And the destruction and ruin of our monetary system as USD, it is set for the next 36 months. There is no way of going around it. So then what kind of a deal can we make with China? There is a visit of both presidents, and then making cybersecurity the topic understanding of the visit. How can you make a cybersecurity part of a conversation where China already leads? Why would they want cybersecurity for? They already have the system, they already have their banking, they already have laws, government laws. Not only this under the control, but then the virtual system camouflaged in it. Why would they want cyber war for? Watch our economy, watch our numbers. So there is no excuse in any kind of a topic this government can ever place on the agenda, because it makes no sense. The only objective of this government is creating USDV, so people can make those transfers in a system where there is value. But since we have no production in relevant numbers, there is nothing going for us other than the government tries to control. And the more control freaks they get, the worse it gets. People are finding Ozarks, money stolen from the government, building the Ozarks over there in the midst of nowhere. FEMA camps, fusion centers. And we think then the world is going then to get ruined because of our USD. We are mistaken. So then, not only this, but then comes the military joining of China and the Soviet Union. Mr. Xi, obviously, he's very busy making deals with the nations of the Central America. But then, since he did not go to Cuba, we must make an analysis why he did not go to Cuba. Unknowingly for many people, obviously there was another authority that went to Cuba simultaneously. And we never asked ourselves why these then president of China did not visit Cuba yet. He was en route. But then there was another person over there who went to Cuba. So then Daniel mentioned in the 11th chapter that the status of the northern kingdom will become higher than the first. As we understand, there is already an authority of the Soviet Union, then obviously going to China, And when he returns the head of both militaries. We don't understand this fact yet. Then during this time where then China is making deals with other countries as per instructions, then you find the president making deals with other countries, and then this specific authority only went to Cuba because he's a military person. As he leaves Cuba, then there is another article in Moscow Times where then a delegation of the Soviets then are coming to South America. Understandably, the first nation is Cuba. International waters were then given to China. They can do patrols as much as they want. And our government naive. We get ourselves mixed up in Singapore. We have no trade over there with those people as far as in relevant numbers. We are mixing up ourselves with Australians far away in the South Pacific. We are playing with our ships over there in the Gulf. And we never yet had evaluated Cuba being a patrol posting. It shows this government is incompetent. So then the articles are very popularly known, where then China is truly at liberty of doing patrols around the world. As we can do a bit of research in the computer, you'll find, for instance, the French and Spain project of the Scorpion submarine. Very nice size, not very big, capable. And you find also Cuba then obviously generating more electricity in Las Tunas, where you find mostly sugarcane fields. So then, Bahia del Puedre in Cuba, we wonder what our Navy then is doing of not evaluating what's going on over there. Our Admiral is truly ignorant. Has he evaluated the danger of the place? Is he then promoting patrols around the area? Or he's simply playing command? You have a military port of Cuba. If you do a research in the computer, you'll find it. But then you find also these power plants of the photovoltaic plants and other types of farming of energy. Why would they spend so much money in an area where they find sugarcane fields? But then the port over there is a very nice depth, can easily disguise or hide submarines. Our government show ignorance after ignorance after ignorance, is spending, spending, ignorance and spending. What would be the strategic point of Cuba other than a patrol posting? Why did not Mr. Xi go over there since he's en route? Because Mr. Xi is not a military person. This authority from China is a military person. He's evaluating the military aspect of Cuba prior of the visit of the Soviets. The anchorage depth of the area is from 11 meters to 12.2, obviously high tide, low tide. And we find, for instance, the Scorpion unit has a height of roughly 6.2. I wonder what the Admiral thinks of it. If he has thinking of it whatsoever. More than likely not. Because with the same level of ignorance of this government trying to control a virtual system that is going to take over the world very shortly, the same level of ignorance extends to the military. They go hand to hand. They have the same agenda. So as we are ignorant of not understanding then the virtual monetary market of China, camouflaged with the standard, how could we understand the next move as far as military? We don't have the knowledge.